Let's go ahead and move on to our final segment, our asshole of the week.
Yes. He's
Well,
back.
yeah, I mean, this is not surprising that Rob Manfred found his way back into the news somehow at the worst possible time.
Already
Uh,
trying to leverage, making
yeah,
moves.
as you know, baseball is starting to, it's hard to say it's a renaissance, but this is an unprecedented positivity in the first few weeks of this season with the rules changes, how they have been universally acclaimed. If people are complaining about like the size of the bases right now or the pitch timer or can't throw over to first more than twice, I don't know what to tell you because the rest of us fucking love it. So, but it just seems like Rob Manfred can't get out of his own way as he's finally in charge of something that's going well, and immediately tries to thwart that by publicly negotiating the next collective bargaining agreement.
He wants to get out
Uh,
ahead of it.
yeah, you got to get out ahead of this shit publicly, of course. Can't do this behind closed doors, but he is already starting shit show. I guess it would be 4.0 is would fit in our chronology, as we documented the previous collective bargaining debacle that lasted an entire offseason and cost part of a short part of the 2021 season. But in front of the Sports Business Journal's World Conference of something sports conference, whatever it was called, whatever the Sports Business Journal does. Rob Manfred was invited to speak, where he took the opportunity to take a shot at the players union, shot across the bow already for shit show 4.0, saying he was against the idea of long-term contracts that we've seen proliferate over the last couple of years, where 12 and 13-year deals. He'd like to see a limit. He and the owners would like to see a limit to those. I'm sure they would. I guess that is not surprising whatsoever. What is surprising is that he would take this moment in time, again, when baseball is experiencing kind of an unprecedented positivity that we haven't seen, a positive momentum, good vibes. That usually baseball gets shit on. You're not hearing much about baseball. They can't get out of their own way. It's finally starting to do smart things in my mind to fix major problems that they've had with just things that have gone wrong in the game and things that have gone astray in the game. He took this opportunity to start to circumvent that immediately because he's far more interested in labor disputes than he is in the game itself. And it just is always going to drive me crazy. It sucks that I have to keep bringing up his fucking name. I hate that he's even mentioned, but he is clearly not interested in anything other than winning whatever the next CBA is to the
Right.
highest degree possible. Unfortunately, the Players Association head Tony Clark has been dragged into this because he has to respond to things like that because he's asked about it. He said, of course, it's a non-starter. We are not going to limit. We're not going to agree with anything that limits the length of contracts, let alone the amount of money. So that would be stupid for them to agree to that, or especially to start to debate this in public of all places. So it's just a disingenuous uh, assault is actually one term that Tony Clark actually used. Assault by the ownership group to the Players Association by making these kind of comments at this point. So it's just a gross thing that I'm sick of. We've named him asshole of the week. We've made him asshole of the year for 2021, I believe it was.
Yep.
So it's going nowhere, even though he thought maybe he's finally on board with some positivity with these rules changes, a little bit of progressive action. In fact, we've heard rumors of other potential rules changes in the future, which we might as well break down right now quickly in this segment. They're in the Atlantic League. They're going to experiment in the Atlantic League, just another minor league, that the idea of having a designated pinch runner, which I think is interesting, but I'm not sure I'm on board with this idea, that a pinch runner, like basically an all-time runner, could come in at any point for a position player. and that position player would not be taken out of the lineup. He could go back and hit. It would just be like an all-time runner, I guess. I think that's a little wonky. I don't think I really agree with that.
I don't agree with it.
I guess I don't mind them experimenting with it. A lot of people freaked out with the idea that they're even experimenting with it at the minor league level, which I think is ridiculous. Like, let them experiment. That's what they really should be using the minor leagues for, is a laboratory to figure out what works and what doesn't, to make the game as great as we can at the major league level. So I love the idea that they're trying things. I don't really like that idea particularly. Another idea that I do agree with that could be really, there's some logic to it, and I think it makes sense, and I think it could add some extra strategies. The double hook is kind of the colloquialism for it, where if you pull your starting pitcher either after 5 innings or before 6 innings or before the 5th inning, or I'm not exactly sure, and that could shift too. You also lose your designated hitter, which would make it a much more strategic decision when you decide to pull your starting pitcher in every game, because then you are left to have either a pinch hitter or a pitcher actually go up there and bat for you, which is kind of the happy medium between, all those crusty old dudes, National League dudes, that are so pissed off that there's a universal designated hitter now. Well, that would bring back pitchers potentially hitting in the game because of this rule. So I guess I like the idea in the surface. There's some logic to it. There's a consequence for pulling your pitcher, and I like the idea that you could actually change the strategy. You either put a greater emphasis even on starting pitching, going deeper, because it gives more potential for offense later in the game. So there's something interesting about that, and I think they've got to work on that 5th or 6th inning, like how that works to find the sweet spot there. But I don't know. What did you think about that on the surface?
On the surface, I'm not a fan of it. Something I mean, one thing I would be a fan of would be if you have a reliever come in and you want to take them out before facing 3 batters, then you could do that once, and you'd exercise and lose your DH then in that scenario.
Oh, so you're making a totally different rule.
Yeah, I'm making my own rule.
Okay, so you would like that better than, well, yeah. Do you understand the idea?
I don't understand, if a pitcher sucks, why you should be penalized for taking them out before 5 innings.
Well, I'm not sure that you're being penalized. You are, but there's some logic to that. I guess, yeah. Maybe that's what it ends up. That's a good point. Maybe that's what it ends up being, is just more punitive than a strategy thing. But I don't know. There's some logic to it, I guess, and that's why they're going to experiment with it. Maybe we'll find out that it's stupid and they shouldn't try it in the majors eventually, but they're going to try it in the minor league level. But I guess the overarching point is they're trying shit, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. No, I think they should try shit. Again, for me, this is just me.
That's your podcast.
Yeah, I don't get, if, like, Mike Clevenger today was terrible, they took him out after 3 innings, I wouldn't have left him in. It's the smart decision to do. And because he sucked, I have to lose the DH and my ability to maybe come back in that game.
The same as National League rules, though. I mean, you go.
Well, we got rid of those.
Well, I know, but this is, I mean, for the good. It didn't get rid of. It also created universal rules between both leagues. So there was good points to that, but this doesn't walk it back by any means, but it adds another layer to it, I think. We'll get way deeper into this.
A pitcher hit for 7 innings of that game, for 6 innings of that game.
You wouldn't. You'd have bench players, pinch hitters most of the time, but that might change like how they construct rosters even. That could make the bench even more important. So that's another aspect of this that I think might be interesting. But again, they'll find out. You and I can revisit this if and when they actually implement this in the major leagues after much research. But I guess my whole point was I like that they're trying stuff. So. And, with much success, they tried things already this year, and we're seeing that. And then Rob Manfred has to come in and shit all over it just by publicly starting to negotiate the next CBA, which is, we all know it's going to be a fucking disaster in 4 years. So the less we can think about that at this point, the better. And Rob
Exactly.
Manfred is trying to remind us of it every fucking day for some reason. So fuck you, Rob Manfred. You are my asshole of the week.
Word Hole Media.